Welcome back, everybody, to CryptoLawTV. I'm the founder and your host, John Deaton, and I have a great guest, someone I'm looking forward to speaking to today. We all know him. We all love him. We all know his YouTube channel, Thinking Crypto. How you doing, Tony?
I'm doing well, John. Thank you for having me.
No, thank you. How's it feel to be on the other side?
I think it's a bit weird, because I'm usually the one asking questions, but still excited to do this because I'm a big fan and we've chatted before as well.
Well, I appreciate you. And I know that you've had me on and I appreciate that as well. What I want to first do is, I'd have to say, Tony, that if you were to probably take a short list of the most likable people in crypto, I honestly believe you're going to be in that top echelon of people. Although we're starting to see a hot side of Tony lately with all this infrastructure bill. I've noticed some of your tweets lately. It's one thing when Deaton goes off, right? That's just Monday or Tuesday. But when you get worked up, I think it says a lot more than someone like me. So how are you taking the recent news with the infrastructure bill and all that?
Well, to your point of my recent tweets and statements, I love my country, but I'm not happy with my government. If I were to summarize how I feel right now, I think there are certain processes that are broken. I think there needs to be a revamp of how the government does things. I think we've been seeing these failures and these cracks in the system over the years, and they're getting more apparent now that we have the internet and we're able to look at things holistically and go back in time a bit, right? So it is frustrating. I did, I think I tweeted out that I need to have a drink tonight, and I did. It's very frustrating to see how things are going and how these things that affect this entire emerging asset class and technology can hang on something so simple as a congressman or senator out of Alabama just saying, hey, I didn't get my amendment, so neither are you. Yeah.
Well, listen, before we get into more of that, I just wanted to, you're always asking your guests to tell a little bit about themselves. And I don't know if anyone's ever asked you, but I want to go a little bit behind, not just the crypto stuff, but get to know you a little bit. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So I'm originally from a small country called Guyana. It's at the northern tip of South America. People are sometimes like, what did you say, Ghana? But it's Guyana. It's a British colony. Some people sometimes think that it's a Spanish-speaking country, but it's not. It's English. I grew up learning British English, math, and things like that. And my parents and I moved to the United States when I was around 8 years old. We settled in New York City. So kind of grew up in the mean streets of New York. And right now I live in New Jersey, but not far from New York. Had to make the move out to a house out of an apartment due to the pandemic. And I'm here with my wife and my daughter. In 2016, a friend told me about crypto. And I was like, oh, dude, what is this? This sounds like BS, right? Don't bother me about this. But he kept telling me about it. And I wish I listened to him earlier because I would have probably have more in my portfolio. But I finally listened and I started investing and bought some Bitcoin and some Ethereum. And then I started going down the rabbit hole and learning about Ripple and XRP and the other cryptos out there. And I saw this potential for how things were going to change with blockchain. And then, of course, it was starting with finance and digital assets and being able to do a variety of different things and use cases. And then I got passionate about it. I love technology. And I decided to start a YouTube channel to talk about it, to kind of express my feelings and my thoughts and build a community around it. The other layer to that is, as someone who's in digital marketing, I always wanted to have a YouTube channel, be able to put that notch on my belt that I built a YouTube channel and grew it, because I did try to do it since going back to like 2010, but never really had success. And thankfully, I did struck some gold here, and I was able to grow a following on YouTube and on podcast sites around crypto. And that's kind of been my journey. And I love the technology. I'm invested in it. I think it's the future. And looking to continue to grow, of course.
Sure. Well, I think it's fair to say that you're successful at it because you get great guests, and someone who's just starting out trying to interview. I mean, you get Hester Parse, Brad Garlinghouse, name a couple of the others that I know, maybe I don't even know about that you've interviewed.
Sure, like Anthony Scaramucci, Michael Arrington, Mayor Francis Suarez, a few other folks, David Schwartz from Ripple, Chris Giancarlo, former CFTC chairman, and some others as well.
Okay. Are you getting Gary on anytime soon?
I would love to talk to Gary Gensler and pick his brain and get, how he's thinking, what's going on in Gary's head, right? To get his perspective. And how is he looking at the crypto market and the asset class? In addition, I would love to have Elon Musk as well.
Sure. So those are your top two that you're trying to get right now?
For sure. Those are hard, but it would be great to get them.
Sure. And it would be great for someone like you to interview Gary Gensler, because you've obviously interviewed individuals, you've interviewed businesses that use XRP, you've interviewed Hester Parse. When you say you want to pick his brain, what do you think about his recent comments? You're someone who's actually sat with regulators, right? And you've listened to them. How do you reconcile, if you will, the things that Gary Gensler has recently said versus maybe what Hester has said?
Sure. I think Gary is looking to continue the status quo. I don't think he's expanding his horizons, even though he's taught Bitcoin and crypto and blockchain at MIT. Maybe being in the position of the SEC, it's hard to break out of that old government structure and way of thinking. I think outside of the SEC, he may not be thinking that way, but when you go to work for the government, your blinders get put on or whatever it may be, and you're not seeing the broader horizon here. And this is not just a US based market. I talk about it on my channel a lot. This is a global asset class. You could be somewhere in Zimbabwe, you put your local currency, $100 of it into Bitcoin or Ether or XRP, whatever, and you're part of the asset class. You don't have to go through a broker. You don't have to go through some sort of gatekeeper, and you don't have to be an accredited investor. So I think Gary's statements and his vision as of right now, I think is off the mark. And I think we're in danger of having the rest of the world move ahead, especially the other countries which are looking to eat our lunch, right? China and many others.
Obviously, Gary Gensler has started social media. He has a Twitter account. How much of it does he personally see? We don't know, but it is his account. And obviously, I know that some people have said, oh, wow, we have a social media savvy SEC chairman. But let me ask you, are you surprised that there's been silence? There's been that petition of 30,000 people that was submitted, where you would expect there to be some type of response. There's been nothing. And then, of course, as you know, because you're part of it, 19,000 XRP holders have been knocking on the door, wanting to just have their voices heard. And there's nothing. There's just no comment whatsoever. Are you surprised that he's taken that kind of cricket or silent approach?
I am. And, I'm hoping that they do come out and say something, but I am surprised that there hasn't been anything there. And it kind of reinforces some of the thoughts and statements people have made over the years that the government doesn't actually represent the people when they are supposed to. They're more beholden to maybe campaign donors, and they operate in that different circle or different circles than you and I, right, who are just earning a living and we're hoping our representatives would actually represent us, right? It's almost like, oh, these people are beneath me. That's the feeling I get. I'm not saying that's how he's thinking or whatever, but that's the impression that we're getting, that we're not even going to address this. And the way things were handled. And I'm an XRP holder, and I was affected, and I lost value in my investment as a result of the SEC's move, and the fact that they wouldn't even address it or talk about it. Like, hey, XRP investors, while this is happening, et cetera, we're taking a look. There's nothing. It's just radio silence. And once again, it gives the impression that, okay, you're the little people. We don't care. I mean, sure, our mission or or core values is supposed to be to protect investors, but it doesn't. Your actions are speaking louder than those core values.
Right. Now, what's your take? I'll have to be candid. At first I wasn't a huge Hester Parse proponent, because I thought that, believe it or not, I thought that maybe she didn't do enough. You know what I mean? And it's not so much her as it's always that, oh, I'm going to tell you what I think, but let me give the disclaimer that no one else thinks this and it can't be used. And it's more about the SEC. But lately she's come out almost every time now, even just recently, yesterday or the day before, there was another settlement that came out and she spoke out against that. You've sat with her, you've interviewed her, you're going to have a better perspective than someone like me, who now I'll be candid. I've come around. I think that she's being very helpful and even courageous in some ways to speak out like she is. But what's your take on Hester and CryptoMom?
I think she's really trying to help push things forward in the right direction for crypto, and to have a proper framework in place. She suggested ideas. I love the different proposals she's put out there, but I think in my interview with her, she almost alluded to, it's like speaking to a wall. Her comments and thoughts are not resonating. And it goes back to your initial question about Gary. It seems like he just wants to continue the status quo, and they're not necessarily thinking about the actual investors, but rather this infrastructure of government and classism and campaign donations and donors and things like that. That is more of a priority for them. But I see her trying to fight the good fight, and I could sense some of the frustration on her end. And this is both, off the record and on the record conversations.
Right.
So I think she's trying, and maybe now she's pulling out the big guns a bit and speaking out more. But before, I think she was trying to walk a fine line because she still works there.
Right.
It can't be too aggressive. She can, but I think now, given the way things are trending and the way Gary Gensler is, the direction he's moving in, I think she's trying to speak up a bit more to help move things in the right direction.
I remember watching that episode, and I, that's why you're better at this than me, because I've sit there when she was like, I'm trying, we at the SEC, we got to get away from talking about the digital asset itself as the security, right? And she's like, like the oranges and Howie weren't securities. I'm watching your episode, and I'm like, no, what, Sherlock? Like that's been the law since 1946. And what do you mean that you have to convince other commissioners or other people at the SEC that the asset itself is not the security? And I think that interview and that the fact that you got that out of her has been proven accurate, because look at the fact is the SEC has taken the position that XRP, not just the way Ripple sold it, not just in 2015, but that today's XRP, even in the secondary market, when you and I trade it to each other, right? Even that is a security. And so I think that I don't know if you're aware of this, but in my motion to intervene, I actually cite to your YouTube video of Hester in the briefs that I submitted based on this argument, saying that the SEC is really taking this broad approach, this overreaching approach as they talk about the asset. And so great job. So what you mentioned that you own XRP. So I know I don't want your whole portfolio, but what's your top three?
Sure. So top three is XRP, second Bitcoin, third Ethereum. And initially when I first got into the asset class and a friend told me about it, I got Bitcoin was my number one holding. and then Ethereum. And then I was like, wait, XRP, the fact that I can move it faster and it's cheaper to use, common sense and logically, I'm like, okay, when it comes to mass adoption, I think this is going to be more ideal. And the fact that it can be used with, improving payments, and then you look at the global use case of currencies and settlement and all that. So that's why I went more all in, but I understand certainly the use case behind Bitcoin as a store of value, as digital gold, and in Ethereum as the smart contract technology being the first mover advantage, and the fact that you can build on it in this, ICOs, NFTs, DeFi, and all that. So those are my top three, and they continue to be as I buy the dips. But I have others: Chainlink, VeChain, Hedera Hashgraph, and a bunch of others as well.
Sure. Let me ask you. I've had this challenge that, and I know that other people have it as well. Maybe you could help us. But when I usually invest in equities, right? I've gotten to the point where I engage in what's called a highly concentrated portfolio, right? So in other words, if I'm not willing to buy more of a stock, I usually will sell it if I don't have a reason. So I would just own more of Apple and Amazon and Google, as opposed to having 10, 12, 14 different equities. I find it challenging. My goal was to get crypto down to the top 5, right? And like you, I'm with Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, and then I have some Avi, and then Cardano. But you come up with 5 pretty easy, and then you're missing out. There's VeChain and there's HBAR, and there's all these others. And so, have you been able to? Do you have more than 10? Because I'm trying to get it to 10 for me, and I'm having a hard time doing it.
Yeah, it is a very difficult thing to do. For me, to give some context, when I got into the market, this was 2016, when a lot of these projects some were airdrops, some were just maybe pennies. So it depends on your entry point as well. There's a level of risk as with any investment. Now, if you're trying to enter, say, Bitcoin or certain cryptos that have made a significant jump in price, there's a higher risk versus if you got it at pennies or $1, right? But if you're coming in at $100, I don't know if there's another rally up that you're going to get the same level of returns, right? There's diminishing returns over time.
Right.
So for me, I just started grabbing up as much as I could, but primarily the majority of my funds are going into XRP, Bitcoin, and Ethereum. But to get it down to 10, I'm over 10. It is a difficult thing, but what I've been training myself to do is just stick to those 3. Right. As my top 3. Like, I continue to buy the dips anytime the market drops.
Right. And, I don't really talk about price ever, but let me ask you, the one thing that I would say that I see too many people, and I've learned this, because I'm older, so I've learned it's the hard way, that a lot of times people get too emotionally attached to their investment, right? And you'll see people be like, I've never sold a Bitcoin, or I've never sold an XRP. And it's like, and then there's never harm in taking a profit. You know what I mean? Absolutely. And then, of course, people, I don't want to pay the taxes. And then all of a sudden, there's an 80% retracement. And it's like, you'd have been happy to pay those taxes. So are you a trader, or are you more of a hodler and you just playing the long game?
I think a bit of both. And I similar to you, I learned my lesson in 2017. I did take some profits, but I held off. I'm like, oh, it's going to keep going. Yeah.
We all FOMO.
It's going to keep going. And then all of a sudden, boom, drop down. And then, oh no, it'll bounce back up. Bear market. So something is better than nothing. Take profits. There's no guarantees. I think people sometimes, look, we all get to that point, euphoric confidence because you see green after green in the pump, but it doesn't last. You got to put it. What helped me is put it on paper. I put a spreadsheet together, and I mapped out, okay, at this price point, I'm taking X amount of profits, and then this price point, I'm taking X amount. So I'm taking my profits, making sure I'm recouping my initial investment, and you got to pay taxes. The tax man is there unless you're some, corporation or something that can move stuff overseas and Cayman Islands. I don't know, but that's not me. So you got to take profits and you got to pay your taxes, unfortunately. But you can't become, to your point, emotionally attached. I did that initially.
We all do. It's
Yeah.
experience. Experience is the greatest teacher, and but I do see that mistake often. I mean, I listened to Max Kaiser just recently talk about how he's been through 390% downturns in Bitcoin. I mean, that hurts if you go down 90%. You know what I mean? And there's nothing wrong with taking a little bit of profit along the way.
And the other thing too, yes, we're saying take profits, but if you don't need the money and you're like, oh, just let it ride,
sure,
good for you. But if you need money and like to help give yourself financial freedom, like I took some profits, I paid off my car, I paid off like debt. Guess what? At the end of the day, there's less burden off my shoulders, and it helped free up capital for me, and I don't have to pay X amount of money every month, and so on and so forth. And my next goal is to pay off my mortgage. Sure. Now, some people are like, dude, blah, 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 right? Like, why are you getting? But that's what's going to be good for me and my family and my financial situation. That's my goal, to be debt free, and the cash I'm earning, I'll continue to put it into investment, not have it sit in the bank and get debased by inflation. I will put it into assets to grow. But at the end of the day, I don't want to be paying a mortgage payment or a rent payment, or whatever situation you're in. I want to kind of be debt free, and so if I ever lose my job, or knock on wood, or anything happens, it's not that I can't pay my bills, right?
Right.
I have a roof over my head.
It's interesting. I saw somebody on Twitter, and they were like, take out a mortgage or a second mortgage on your house to buy Bitcoin. And my answer was, that person doesn't have any children.
Yeah, exactly.
You and I have something in common for sure, more than one thing, but we're both fathers. And so as you become a father, you realize that every single decision you make now affects that little person, that little girl of yours. And so I understand exactly what you're saying. Now, you mentioned your job. I believe, you left recently, right? Your previous employment, and you're sort of in the crypto business now?
Yeah. So I went full-time crypto. Yeah, so I'm excited about that, and that's how passionate I am about the technology, right? So if you were to look at it, it was a big jump, a bit risky of a move, because this market's still young. Like I said, there are no guarantees or certainties. Yes, there's high probability of upside and growth. But I was previously director of SEO, search engine optimization, at a digital marketing agency by the name of Tenuity. That's my day job, what I'm good at. And I use some of that knowledge to grow my YouTube channel as well. And as the market's been, crypto market's been growing, I'm like, man, I want to work around crypto. I love the technology. I love talking about it. And I decided to make the move, and I went to Dogecoin crypto exchange.
Yeah.
They are one of the smaller exchanges in the United States, but overseas, the sister company OKEX is pretty big in the Asian markets. So Dogecoin is trying to make a splash in the United States. I'm hoping to help them do that and to grow their visibility.
Now, are you helping them with their like digital advertising and things of that nature?
Yeah, so specifically search engine optimization, app store optimization, also doing some KOL partnerships. So trying to help grow their YouTube and things like that, and just their digital footprint.
Well, it's good. Listen, everyone sees the passion, and that's how we started this interview, right? Where I said, as I was saying, that you're one of the most likable people in this community, in this business. And when I see you fired up, right, then it's like, oh, it's time to pay attention what's going on. Tony's pretty fired up. And I think that passion's coming out. I know you already talked about your frustration with the infrastructure bill and how it, one senator can hold up the whole process. And you see this different sort of perspective. And I understand all the perspectives. I've seen some people say that what just recently transpired shows that crypto is got a long way to go. And then I've seen some people say, hey, crypto held up a $1 trillion infrastructure bill. We've arrived, right? I guess it depends if you're looking through rosy colored glasses, but what's your take on the future?
By nature, I think I'm natural optimist. I see the glass as up half. Oh my gosh, half full. I was about to say half empty, half full. So to that point, I do think we're growing and we're having more influence, the crypto asset class, because to your point, holding up a bill like that, having all the major political sites talking about it, right? And even to the SEC's chagrin, Gary Gensler and all these folks getting talked about now with this lawsuit. So I think we are having an effect on government, on mainstream of society, and that's going to continue to grow. In the same way, the internet and .com websites and tech sites and so forth started having that effect, and we see where they're at now. So I do think things are moving in the right direction. While I am frustrated about this situation with the infrastructure bill, I don't think this is going to stop the crypto train. This thing is off the tracks, it's rolling down, and just like those cars and trucks that get stuck on the track, it's just going to blast through. And I think people have to remember that, and even these government officials, it's probably not resonating to them yet, but this is a global asset class. So even if the United States or one specific country tries to do something to put up stop signs and halt something, it's not going to stop it.
If you got to interview Elon, my question would be, Dogecoin, really, dude? Right? What is your better question than what I would ask him?
I would say, I would ask him about kind of we know he has a lot going on. He got Tesla, SpaceX, and he's doing crypto stuff. I would want to know about his vision for, let's say we colonize Mars or the moon or whatever, right? Does he envision like cryptocurrencies, the currency of Mars, right? And I would ask him specifically, which ones and why? Now he may say Doge. I'm going to say, okay, then why isn't Tesla holding Doge on their balance sheet? Why are they holding Bitcoin? Why were you accepting Bitcoin payments? And we know they, backtracked on that, but why didn't you go with Doge? Why didn't you? What's your conviction, right? Right. And it could be personally, maybe he's like, yeah, I like Doge, but realistically, in the reality of things and his investors and the real world, it has to be things people are familiar with and want to use. So yeah, I would try to get to the genesis or the seed of like, what's the thought process there, Elon? Right.
Yeah. So let me ask you some of the questions that you ask everyone, right? Let's see if I can remember them. What's your favorite food?
I'm gonna have to go with shrimp linguine. It's I don't know. Growing up, I remember my aunt made it, and that's been like my favorite food. I don't know why, but I just love it, and I pour some Parmesan cheese all over it. So my wife still makes it. She has a really great recipe. So it's one of the things I always ask her to make every 2 weeks or something.
It's funny. After I answered this question when you interviewed me, a lot of people got surprised that that I mentioned NWA or Tupac or hip hop or rap. But what's your favorite music?
So, man, I can't pick a specific band or artist, but I'll pick a genre. I love classic rock. If I'm outside cleaning my car, my yard, I got some AC/DC, Led Zeppelin, something on like that. It just gets me going, even if I'm working out too. Right. And because I play guitar, and I guess I navigate more to rock. So I'll have some Guns N' Roses on or something. But I listen to a variety of music as a guitar player. Like I'll listen to hip hop, anything funk, whatever it is.
How long have you been playing the guitar?
Let's see, since 2000. Yeah, I was trying to impress a girl, so yeah. Hey,
we've all been down there. Right?
Yeah, that's kind of what my motivation. But then I fell in love with it, and I still play. That's one of my stress relievers, just to go pick up the guitar and if I've had a bad day or a bad week.
Yeah, the guitars lasted longer than the girl.
Yeah, yeah. Don't tell my wife, man.
No, not at all. What about pick a movie that you've one of your top, say, 5 movies if you had to rewatch it?
I would say Braveheart. I guess maybe one. Yeah. I love Braveheart. I think I love movies where there's some battle and you have to overcome some major life struggle or things like that. And I think most recently, like Interstellar, I think was a good one too that resonated with me. But I would say, yeah, if I were to pick a movie I'll watch Braveheart.
Yeah. Let me ask you now, going back to the SEC lawsuit. Obviously, you're invested in it, and you're experienced with the markets. You've watched it, you researched it, you went down all those rabbit holes. How much of a suppression do you think this lawsuit is and has been on XRP?
I think pretty big, because now that I'm working for a crypto exchange, I see the hesitation on the legal side. It's not that these people have anything against XRP or one way or the one crypto over the other. It's a business. But the SEC has put so much uncertainty out there, even though they're like, oh, we didn't tell exchanges to delist, but you put a narrative and perception, right? Perception is sometimes greater than reality.
Really?
And nobody wants to get anything that near anything that has a potential risk to it, especially when the SEC hasn't put out clear crypto regulations and they're not definitive about things, right? One commissioner can say something and then they're like, oh, he was probably drunk when he said that.
Right.
Like, really? Right? So it's just a mess. And XRP, as a content creator, I monetize via Coil, where I get XRP earnings. My website's monetized that way, my YouTube channel. And I know a lot of people have tipped me with the XRP tip bot. I tipped other content creators as well. And it just sucks because so the value just tank, right? And even possibly usage. I haven't, probably a lot of people who left it are like, whoa, what just happened, right?
Right.
So I think it did set it back. And I'm hoping that Congress can step in and put the proper regulations in place that will bring comprehensive common sense regulations to the crypto market, that you can't use a 70, 80-year-old law to go after digital assets that are on a decentralized network. It's just, I don't know. It's just, and it goes back to Gary Gensler. What is he thinking? What's going on?
Well, part of the reason why I actually started the channel with Crypto Law was, it's been a long time. We're waiting to hear back from the SEC on whether or not we'll be successful in being allowed to participate, whether it's as a party or amicus status. And so part of the whole purpose is to put faces of XRP holders on display, and you being one of them, not just the investor side, but as you said, someone who's acquired XRP as part of your content that you provide and as part of your sort of business, that you're in services that you're providing. And I would imagine when you've acquired some of that XRP, there's been times when, do you hodl it all, or have you had to sell it as you've acquired it for your content to pay bills?
Oh yeah, I've certainly taken profits because I have to run a website with hosting, domain, and even just getting creatives, getting things done as far as video thumbnails, doing a logo, video intro and outro, all these things that pop up, a new microphone, lighting. So as a content creator, I got to pay for all those things. So certainly the tips that I've gotten from the community, thank you everybody, have helped to pay for those, right? I take profits along the way. So I've seen less and less activity I think since this lawsuit around like tips and even through Coil. I'm not saying it's dead, but rather, I mean, it put a damper on usage, and people are, of course, walking on eggshells a bit like, okay, what's going to happen here? Maybe hit the brakes, pump the brakes on this XRP stuff. So unfortunately, that's the situation the SEC has created. No,
they absolutely. You said it better than I could. Well, let me finish up with just asking you. Everyone knows, but if you could tell us, for those that are new, where do they find you on social media, YouTube, you name it? Why don't you tell us?
Sure. So YouTube, Thinking Crypto, also on all podcast sites, Thinking Crypto, on Twitter, at Thinking Crypto 1. I can't get the original Thinking Crypto handle, so you can find me there. And thank you, John. Thank you for having me. I appreciate everybody who's watched my channel, support over the years. So thank you, everybody.
All right. Thank you.